Hey everyone, we're going to start with our first method of half square triangles, which we're going to use 5-inch squares to complete. And with these 5-inch squares, they work great. They are the same size as a charm pack. So if you like this method and you want to make a quilt out of charm packs, then you can definitely do that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to place right sides together on here. And then just kind of turn it at an angle so you have a diamond shape. I'm going to show you everything using the ruler you got with your kit, just to show that you don't have to keep switching rulers around. If you don't have this, you don't have to have this for this particular method, but I just want to show you, since if you're beginning, you may only have this ruler. So what I'm going to do is line up the edge here. It doesn't really matter where you are on here. What we're looking to do is split the distance. So basically, for you geometry buffs out there, we are going to draw the hypotenuse on a 90-degree angle. You can use any pen will work for this because we're going to cut on the line, so don't worry. Just be cognizant you don't probably want something that'll bleed through to your mat, but I like my good old disappearing sewing pen. The cap's obviously not perfect, but what you're going to do is just line it up, and we're just going to create a line. Now, mine disappears, so you can't do this with this particular pen and then walk away for hours because it will disappear on you. But what we're going to do next is basically stitch a 1/4 inch off of this side, and then flip it around and stitch a 1/4 inch off of this side. That's one way you can do this particular method. If, say, you didn't have a pen or a ruler, or you don't want to take the time to do that, here is another method that I use. And basically what you're going to do is take your 5-inch squares. You're going to take one right sides together, and you're going to go over to your machine, and you're going to press them in half. So I'm going to finger press this one. And then you take, say, wrong sides together, which on the white it doesn't particularly matter, and press that together. So then what you're going to get are two halves that are pressed together. And what you can do then is open it up, and then this one would in theory be wrong sides pressed together, and you're just going to nest them. So now you have your line. They line up perfectly, so they're nested, and then you can go stitch a 1/4 inch on each side of this line. All right, I'm going to meet you over at the machine and show you next steps. Hey everyone, we have our 2 squares ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the line one first, and then after that I'm going to show you what the pressed one looks like. So line it up right here on the line. If you notice, I'm still using my 1/4 inch presser foot, and that's definitely on purpose because this nice little line will follow right along. So we're going to do right sides together, obviously, and just stitch right along the purple line, and that's going to give us a 1/4 inch seam from our cut line, which is the purple line. So as you can see, I'm just going through here. Sometimes you might have to stop and adjust it slightly. But now, as you see, we're starting to get to the edge here. We can start to see the edge, I should say. So what you want to make sure is, if you have your 1/4 inch lines, maybe from a previous tutorial, you can see that I'm lining it up right here with the center line, and we're actually stitching on the left 1/4 inch line. Now, once you become an old hat and pro at half square triangles, you can always skip the marking or the pressing and just eyeball it with one of these lines. It makes it super easy. But really, honestly, it takes no time at all to draw this disappearing line. So for accuracy, I just recommend doing it that way. So as we come off of the block, I'm going to show you on this one. We're just going to trim, and I always like to trim as I go so I'm not spending a lot of time fixing things. And then what we're going to do is just flip it around and do the exact same thing again. So if you'll notice, here's the line I just stitched, and now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, now let's talk these guys. So we have our 5-inch square that we have ironed wrong sides together. And then we have our white square that we did right sides together. So overlapping the two, they nest together like a sandwich. As you can see, they fit perfectly together. You just want to make sure they're all lined up and ready to go. And then we're going to do the exact same thing as we did before. We're just going to stitch along the pressing line and get it started here. Now, one thing you want to make sure is you can kind of see this is buckling up almost like a little mountain. Just make sure you pull it flat so you get the true 1/4 inch seam. That's the only little hiccup with this method. And then you just want to stay right on that seam. So I'm also going to show you on this one, just so if you are watching and prefer this method, you don't have to stick around for the other one. And then we just put this right here and repeat. Again, we're coming on here. You can see I'm following right along the green line. Now, one thing I would recommend is that you get a bunch of these ready to go. You know, we're doing 6 sets of 24 of these. So each time you go through each method, I would get them ready to go and just chain piece. So you can chain piece one side and then turn them all around and chain piece them back through again. It's just going to save you a lot of time, and then it'll allow you to go back to your cutting board and cut them all at the same time as well. All right, so with that, we have got 4 small half triangle square pairs, and this makes our 1 pinwheel block. On to the next step. Okay, we have now stitched both of these across the way, so you can see either way you're still getting, this is starting to fade on us, so I'm going to draw this in real quick again. All right, we are back with both of these, and you can see they still both make the same type of stitching line. Here, if I turn this over, you can see basically the same thing. And what we're going to do now is we're going to cut them in half, and I'm going to show you your half square triangle. So what I like to do is, using this ruler, I'm going to line it up with the stitches, and I usually do a little bit of overage just so I can run my rotary cutter all the way through. But if you just line it up again right on that line, you're going to see your stitches match up as well. And then we're just going to come in here with our rotary cutter, pull them apart, and look, half square triangle. So we're going to do that again on the other side. So as you can see, these methods it doesn't particularly matter which one you choose. I think for accuracy to begin, I would suggest drawing your lines. We've got to make 24 of these bad boys, so you can split it up and try it. And then give it a go. But what we're going to do is now we're going to go press to the dark side. So when you press here and then flip it open and press open, and then come back and trim off these little dog ears, and that is going to be your half square triangle. All right, I have pressed our blocks. And then what I'm going to do not use your rotary cutter for this. Too many ways you can make a mistake. So I'm going to cut our little dog ears. They're called dog ears. So they look like little doggies' ears. We're going to trim these off. And then I'm going to show you what our final block layout is. These go super fast. And similar to our disappearing 9 patch, I don't know if you have watched that tutorial. It's a great place to start if you've never made a quilt before. This is kind of our step 2, assuming you've went through that one. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to lay out our block. Takes me a minute here sometimes. Just like this. And voila! There's our first pinwheel. What we're going to do is stitch them together just like the disappearing 9 patch. The only place you have to match is right here in the center as far as seams go. And what I would do is do it top two, so left and right, left and right. And then if you're always pressing to the dark side, you're going to be able to perfectly nest your seams every time, and that is definitely by design. Hey everyone, I just wanted to show you a quick tip for matching your pinwheel points. So as you can see here, we're going to put these together, right sides together. And one thing I'm going to show you is right here, you can lock the seams just like you're nesting, because look, dark, light. And we can nest those seams perfectly. You can kind of see it right here, how they lock. And then from the start, get these all lined up so they're perfectly square. But if you have them locked, then when you go through in your 1/4 inch, and see, you can adjust here, keeping it on your line. Then when you open it up, let me pull this off here, you get a perfectly matched seam every time. Here's another one I did, same method. You can see it'll match. And this is your 1/4 inch seam here, so when you come through, when you nest and come through, all of these points will match perfectly for you. So, get started. Here we go, and let me know if you have any questions. Let's put our final block together. What do you say? So we have one piece here, and I would highly suggest laying it out to make sure it'll make your pinwheel when you're done. So I'll alter this over. So here's what our pinwheel is going to look like when we're done. We're going to face these two right sides together, nest this seam, stitch along, and you're going to get your final block. So let me show you how to do that. Get your reset up here. So right sides together. This is kind of how I approach locking the seams. Come in, and I just move it until you feel that little click. It's very subtle, but you can definitely feel it. And then you want to make sure you're perfectly lined up straight with all of your items. And then, a little loose threads there. You just come in, line this up, and I apologize with the camera. Line this up, and start stitching your 1/4 inch seam. And you'll see these are still locked tight, but you might have to adjust. See how these are moving around a little bit. And we'll just adjust this down here. You want these to be nice and straight. Just small adjustments. You'll notice I'm keeping my line straight here. And as we go through, we'll undo this. Trim our threads. I always trim as I go just because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing that later. And then for the big reveal, voila. Let me back it off here a second so we can actually see it. Boom. Pretty perfectly matched seam. Here's what the final block looks like once it's pressed. Next up is using a 10-inch square or layer cake to make 8 half square triangles at once. I'll see you over there. Thanks so much.